No mai, haere mai. Welcome to the Maxim Institute podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm the Communications Manager at Maxim Institute. This is our weekly short-form podcast. These podcasts are released in tandem with our weekly column and are a chance for you to hear in depth from the column's author about some of the thinking that went into producing their final piece.
Jason, welcome back to the podcast.
Marcus, always good to be here, mate.
Yeah, first one for 2024.
Yes.
Exciting times. And you've started the year off by looking at an issue that came up over the summer and was talked about quite a lot, the shoplifting of a former Green MP, Golraz Ghahraman. It's been talked about a lot, Chase.
It has, yeah.
Was there something else that you could add to that? Or?
Yeah, it has been almost done to death, really.
Yes.
But it wasn't just the Golraz incident that I was wanting to talk about. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, a lot of different news stories have landed in my inbox, and I just remember thinking there's something that ties all of these together. So there's the Golraz story, but there was also the story about business leaders who have name suppression, but they're in court at the moment for defrauding Counties Manukau District Health Board out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there was the story about Woolworths, who are stopping a scan and go thing where you can go through and scan the products that you're putting in your trolley, and then you get to the checkout and you just pay and go. So you don't have to worry about scanning each one individually, whatever. And they're stopping that because people were just putting things in their trolley and scanning one or two items and then taking the rest. And it got the nickname Scam and Go from the employees of Woolworths, which is appropriate. I thought it was quite clever. But to me, there's the thread that that pulls it all together is this idea of character or lack of character. And character is like moral strength. That's what I'm talking about in terms of character, moral strength and integrity. And I think that's something that is lacking in at the heart of all these stories. So that's what I wanted to explore in the column.
Yeah, so you're trying to draw it back a little bit and say, yes, there's a issue with MPs, and it's not just the shoplifting incident. You talked about some other political figures in the past little while.
I saw an article that went back like 20 years and just listed off and from benefit fraud all the way through to bullying, in the past 20 years. So it's like, wow.
Right. And you're saying perhaps that's not, those aren't unrepresentative perhaps of New Zealand's characters, are you?
Yeah. Well, in a sense, yes, because it's not just a leadership problem. Like the Scam and Go, which I refer to as Scam and Go, article shows that it is more than that. It's the everyday people like you and I who also skirt around laws if we can get away with it, who will take the shortcut if it's expedient and easy, who will cut corners when we can. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. So it's not just a leadership problem, although it's easy because they're so public and everyone you get front page news. It's not just them, it's everyone.
Do you think that's getting worse? Do you think this lack of character is a perennial problem or a...
I think it's a perennial problem in that there's always going to be people who lack moral integrity, but I do think that in some ways it is getting worse because of the kind of culture of, if I can get away with it, why wouldn't I? And if they can get away with it doing that, why I'd be a fool not to get away with doing that as well. So I think it's kind of a it feeds off itself. There's this idea that someone gets away with it, someone notices, so they do it, and then it just spreads. So I think in some ways it is getting worse, and we don't have a national sense of what a good person is in some ways. I don't think we don't ask our schools to inculturate virtues into our children, and we're not maybe as intentional in our families as we should be at doing that as well.
So do you think if that's the case, then we are forced back on what's legal and what's illegal to do the heavy lifting then?
I think so. I think that's right. We just look to the law and we go, well, is it illegal? But legal doesn't mean morally right or morally good. So just because something's legal doesn't mean you can then participate in it, or you should. Yeah.
And then it comes back to, well, can I get away with it legally? Will I get caught?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if I'm relying only on the laws and the police to enforce my morality, then
then you're in a pretty shady place, because there's a lot. The police aren't everywhere. We need to, I think, recultivate that internal sense of morality, that internal compass that constrains us to do the right thing, even when it's difficult, even when we know no one's going to know, and even when it's not. Maybe it won't bring about what we might think is a good outcome for ourselves.
So how do we do any pointers or ideas about how we go about that, or how we change this sort of dearth of character?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing for us to do would be to say we need to pass laws so that our MPs, can't get away with this or whatever.
Shouldn't shoplift.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty sure it's on the books.
I'm pretty sure it is already, but I think it goes more to taking a look at ourselves and going, well, if I knew I could get away with shoplifting, would I do that? And is that the sort of person that I want to be? To actually hold ourselves to account and to go, rather than going, the system needs to change, because what is the system other than a whole bunch of us together acting in a certain way? Go, what can I control? What can I take responsibility for? How can I hold myself to account? And start there and start practicing these behaviors that we want to see in others. Start modeling it and physically embodying it. Yeah.
And so the laws are one aspect of that, and but we want to get from the laws to our own personal self-control.
Yeah.
Are there any other guardrails you think that are
I think,
to help?
society and kind of our ethos in general. So we were talking about this earlier in the week, and I think there's the kind of that 3 levels of your internal conscience and how you guard your own self and your behavior. And then at the other end, there's the external laws where you're going to go to jail if you do this. But in between that, there's the expectations of our society, peer pressure, we might call it. And that can be positive or negative peer pressure. And so to kind of cultivate a group of people around you who will hold you to account as well, and who will allow you to hold them to account, to say, hey, here's a group of us who all think and believe the same way. Let's help each other do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot to chew over, Jason.
It is.
So hopefully we won't be back talking about our MP's lack of character.
Hopefully not, yeah.
But do you think, one last question around that, do you think that we spend enough time thinking about voting for politicians based on character?
That's a really good question. And I think that we probably need to spend more time getting to know our electorate MP. Who is it that we're voting for? And what sort of person are they? Because it doesn't matter what their party's policies are. If I vote for them based on their party's policy, but they're someone who has no character or integrity, then they're just going to do whatever's expedient at the time, what they can get away with, right? And so if we want someone to represent us well, we need to know them and know their character. So I think we do need to spend a lot more time thinking about the type of people and the character of the people we're voting for sure.
A lot to think about. We've got 3 years before the next time we have to do that, so let's try and change ourselves before that time.
Yes.
Hey, Jason, thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, Marcus. With another shoplifting charge just laid against former Green MP Golriz Garaman, with a subsequent summons to appear in court, there are very few surprises to be wrung out of this sorry affair. That doesn't apply to Garaman alone. In the past 6 years, we've seen a cabinet minister evading the police, another fail to disclose investments, a mayor publicly drunk, an MP bullying subordinates, and a former national MP sending indecent images to young people. Such actions erode trust in our institutions and degrade our faith in the people who are supposed to lead us and represent us. Unfortunately, they do represent us. Recently, business leaders were found in court charged with defrauding district health boards for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are also ordinary people engaging in scam and go programs by stealing from supermarkets. The coverage of these incidents abounds with explanations that include racism, the stress that these jobs cause, or cost of living troubles. In fact, there's something deeper happening here. The common cause is an absence of character. Character is moral strength and integrity. It is, according to author David Brooks, a moral logic, not an economic one. You have to give to receive. You have to conquer your desire to get what you crave. This is crucial, not only because it goes against so much of what we think today, but because such a quality holds our society together. If we only look out for ourselves, the results are what we have seen above. How, then, can we obtain this sort of character where those in positions of leadership act in the interests of those they lead, where our public servants serve the public who elected them? By holding people accountable. We let them know that actions have consequences and that if the choices are poor, the outcomes will also be poor. In short, we give people agency to take responsibility. Where does all this start? Surely with a proclamation telling our public servants and leaders of this new standard. No, it starts with you and me. The path ahead lies in our hands. We must be courageous enough to acknowledge our flaws before demanding better from others. We needn't be perfect. We need only commit to the habitual act of facing weaknesses with honesty and intent to grow. In modeling accountability in our own lives, we can then reasonably expect the same from leaders charged with public trust. We need a renewal of personal responsibility at all levels. Politicians claiming to serve, professionals bound by oaths, communities unified by shared hopes. We all must model the virtues and integrity we wish to see in others. The Times once sent letters to authors asking them to write about what was wrong with the world. G.K. Chesterton wrote back 2 words, I am. Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā, goodbye for now.